If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today's guest is Anne Battley. Anne's a dressage specialist, trainer, coach and coach educator, and she also brings in a wealth of knowledge from stock horse background and camp drafting. How are you today, Anne?
I'm fantastic, thanks, Glenys.
Fantastic. And I'm looking forward to hearing your favourite quote.
Well, are you ready for it?
Yes.
If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It was by Henry Ford.
Yep. Now, when did you first hear that? Who told that to you?
I probably read it in a book, and that was probably only about 10 years ago. I wish I'd heard it when I was at school, really, but it just had a profound effect on me because I've always been super positive, and I found that a lot of people aren't necessarily that positive, but if I thought I could, I could.
Yep.
And then this guy said, if you think you can't, you're right, and I found a lot of people do that. They say, oh, I can't do that, and I think, well, you know, like you're telling yourself you can't.
Yeah.
So,
And any students or any incidents in particular that you want to talk about with that? I mean, I can think of it myself and think, yep, I can see that, and you're absolutely correct. But I just thought you might want to bring in a story or bring in something.
Absolutely, actually, because when I started being so super positive about horses and everything, when I started to compete, most people really discouraged me from, they'd say, oh, you haven't been doing dressage long enough, you can't go to championships yet, your horse is too little, your saddle's wrong. Like, they certainly didn't say, well, let's get with it and go. They did the opposite, but that just made me dig my nails in, I think, and I thought, well, I think I can, and I jolly well will. And the interesting thing is that I did, and I was very successful right from the very start. I'm not quite sure how, Glenys, but it just turned out that way. Even in the first year of my dressage, I got invited onto the state dressage squad. And I don't think I had a clue what I was doing particularly, but I was very positive.
Okay, well, look, you might even give us, because that's a bit of a different story. But if you can tell us, first of all, how you started with horses, and then we'll go on and talk about how you started with dressage.
Oh, God. I don't think anyone's got this story, Glenys. I had a father that was a bank manager, and we lived in country Victoria, and we moved around all the time. Every couple of years we'd get a move. And from as long as I can remember, I just had this deal with horses. I just loved them. I just wanted to be with horse. And he wouldn't let me. So I wouldn't be denied, though. I had a brother, and we would go around the local country town, and we found a paddock that had horses. They're probably ponies when I look back, but we knew nothing about them. But we would just climb the fence. The horses would come up. Richard would boost me onto the horse. He would bolt on, and they'd just go across the paddock. And obviously my brother used to know if they were getting a bit dicey, and he'd just yell out and he'd say, roll off like an Indian. And I did. So my first riding was riding horses that I didn't know, no saddle, no bridle, actually no idea. But I thought it was just fantastic fun. I was an Indian in my head, and I was riding, and I was in heaven, really. And that's where it all started. And I actually didn't get a horse of my own until I married. And we got our farm where I am now. So it was very late to start in the horsey field for most people, I suppose. They don't start at the age of 20 or anything.
And I'm thinking about, some instructors I know and, would be cringing at the thought of someone learning to ride on horses, just, unknown horses, as you say, no saddle, no bridle, no control, just get on, roll off if they're getting a bit fast. Yep.
It was insane, really, but that's how it started.
Yeah. And now when you first started riding, did you start riding in dressage, start riding in other disciplines? How did that start?
Yes, no, when we got here to the farm, I started, and I also had a dream of, being at the Royal Show and things like that. So I started at just hacking.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that was the first thing I started to do, and I achieved that goal and went to the Royal Show. And at that stage, I'd met another lady in the local town, and she was riding dressage and competing. And I watched her ride, and I thought, oh, no, this is what I've got to do. I've got to do dressage.
Mm-hmm.
And so she really started the ball rolling, and the horse I had was too small to do dressage officially. Mm-hmm. And I never contemplated doing anything except official and doing well. So that positive mindset. So we were at a Christmas party, and we were just talking to the fellow sitting next to us who was a farmer, and we were talking horses, and he said, you need my horse. If you're going to do dressage, he'd be wonderful. So we went and looked the next day, and we came home with a 15 two-hand ex-racehorse that he'd been playing polo cross on and clerk of the course at the Narrogin races. And he was 8 years old, and that's where we started. And he was my best dressage horse.
Okay.
And he took me everywhere. That little horse was amazing.
What was his name?
I called him Ceramic.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse, his name was for short. We used to call him Mickey. But yeah, we started, every horse I had to start with an S, so it was Ceramic with an S, and all my horses after that all started with S's.
Okay. And was it Ceramic then that you went on to the state squad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Straight away,
yeah. Okay.
Went to the nationals.
But from there, from someone who's riding unknown horses and who knows what could have happened to waiting until you're married to get your ex-race horse because you need a dressage horse, you've gone on there and you've become a professional. So what made you want to keep going? Was it still that positive mindset that you were talking about?
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to achieve. If someone was doing that higher level, I just wanted to be there. I did even think about Olympics, like nothing like positive. Seriously.
Yeah.
But I was just, maybe it was just the people that I was involved with put me in line with really good trainers that really helped me and encouraged me. I didn't have many trainers, and all the ones that I did have were really high-class dressage coaches, really.
Yep.
And they just fueled my ambition to do to do well, I suppose.
Yeah. It was good, though, that you had to be open to learning to listen to advice, though. So that was good. Yeah.
I was probably a difficult person to teach. I don't know. But I did start reading. They recommended reading, and I think I've read and bought more and more books. And, I just soaked it all up. And a lot of people don't do that anymore. I think a lot of people are in a different, a lot of the riders now are in a different position financially even. They can buy a horse that's already going at Grand Prix, and they don't have to learn like an Indian, and they hop on and off they go. It was completely different for me. We had no money, and I think we bought a horse for 16 bags of oats. We traded. And he went to the National Dressage Championships. I mean, it was, people say you need this and you need that, you need an expensive horse or whatever, but I think you just need great desire and willingness, like you say, to learn and to try until you just get better and better at it.
Okay.
But I think I love the horse, Glenys. I think that's something too, that you've really got to love the horse you're working with.
Yep.
I just couldn't buy one out of the paper or off from a video. I had to personally see the beast, and there would be some connection for me, and I'd say, yeah, I'm going to take him.
Yeah. And you said you had some great trainers early on. Who has influenced you? Who are those trainers? Or who's the person who, you said first of all there was someone in your local area who influenced you, and then others. Have you got names for those people?
Well, the first one that influenced me was Gert Donvig, and the local lass, her brother was involved with a girl called Margot Bolt, she ended up being.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And early on I became friendly, and Margot at that stage used to bring out Gert Donvig. He's since passed on, so he used to come over 3 times a year. She would get Gert Donvig over, and we would have a 5-day dressage clinic. And Rob would let me go. I'd leave all the kids' food and their clothes and everything, and I would go up to Perth and ride for 5 days with Gert. And he was just fantastic. He knew, I think he was frustrated with me, but I'd say to him, I'm really trying. Say, and I will keep helping you. I will keep reminding you, because he said, I know you have a real passion and you want to achieve. Mm-hmm. And he really, really encouraged me. Mm-hmm.
Good.
He was the first one that set me on my path, and he rode magnificently. And, and I went over to Macedon and had the chance to ride on their horses and do Piaffe and Passage. And, that was it for me. I just wanted to do that.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And because I was already invited by the state to join the NCAS team. Mm. We had Wolfgang Holtzel come, and he was wonderful too. He sort of confirmed that I was doing the right thing. Like, I always thought there should be lightness, that the horse should carry itself, and I should teach the horse and be part of the horse. And he sort of said, yep, just keep going. And I suppose when Harry came, I didn't have that many teachers, I suppose. I just stuck to the same ones with that group. And then when Harry Bolt came, he honed all my little higher level skills, if you like, with dressage. He was such a master teacher. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then, they were just good. I had Nuno Oliveira, and, you talk about trainers. In the last 10 years, I suppose, we lived so far away from Perth, and I saw a girl ride that I taught, and she was very difficult. And I'd done my best with her, but I just couldn't get through what I wanted to. And I saw her this day, and she was just as happy as. And I said, who have you been having a lesson with? And she said, I've just been to Steve Brady. Have you heard of him?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yep. So then I thought, righto, I've got to go and see this man. I'll have to see Steve Brady. So I took my beautiful washed dressage horse to my first Steve Brady clinic, and it was at a town called York in the middle of the country, and I think I was the cleanest horse there with all the stock horse people. It was the first introduction to the stock horse, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They were actually quite friendly to me.
Good.
Yeah, he helped me in a huge way with my horse mastership. I didn't have any idea about that at all, and he just was wonderful with groundwork.
Yep.
And that probably inspired me then to really do a lot more with that.
What sort of groundwork exercises did he use?
Everything. Like, he showed me how to do travers, shoulder in, half pass, piaffe, passage, the whole bit. I could canter the horse around at the end of it on the reins, just over the horse's neck, and do canter pirouettes from the ground. And it was just wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. But I find people don't like me teaching that to them. They get very frustrated.
Do they get frustrated because they think that they're paying you to teach them how to ride, or because they don't get it? Or
no, I think you're right. I think you've hit the nail on the head, really, that I came for you to ride. I don't want to fiddle around on the ground. They just don't see the value of it.
Yep. If they've got a sort of very focused goal to go out to a competition, they may not understand the value in the groundwork.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, as much as I'd like them to, I encourage people to come here and try the groundwork on my horses, because of all these back operations, I've spent a lot more time on the ground than on top of them, and they're really good. Like, anyone can come, and the horse knows all the exercises and the pattern, and they'll start doing it even if you're not.
Yes.
But you can get a really good idea of what you can teach a horse from the ground and how you can see it, and they've got to know the exercise. And, of course, when they're on top, then I put them on the top of the horse, and if they start the exercise, the horse has nearly done a walk pirouette before they've even thought about it. Not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay. Now, what's been your proudest moment?
I suppose it was really being invited onto the state dressage squad, really. And I never thought that I would be, in that field, and then going to the Nationals. We went 3 times. I mean, it took us 4 days to drive across the Nullarbor Plain with our little truck, and I was part of a winning team. That was our best thing we did. I was part of the 3, and we won at the Nationals, and I competed in the Inter 1 with that little horse, that little ex-race horse, 15-2. He was just brilliant, Glenys.
Yeah.
He was just the most giving little horse. He would do anything. It was beautiful. And I suppose I read a few books, and I read one. It was by Anthony Pullman, an English guy, training show jumpers. And he wrote, like, the 3/4 of the book about show jumping was dressage. And his vision was that if you couldn't do up to canter pirouette and sequence flying changes and everything, your horse wasn't schooled enough to be going across country and jumping things, you know, at a gallop and things. So I believed him, and I only went eventing on Mickey when he was already graded FEI, and I was doing Pre St George and Inter 1. I thought, well, you're probably ready now. So we started eventing. In my second year, we won 3 events. So I was only restricted novice. Like, that's about as far as my courage went. So 3'6" in the old scale was, you know, huge for me. And we won 3 events, one after the other in that year. And then everyone told me that I had to go up or get out.
Oh, okay, yes.
So I stopped eventing then because I couldn't go up. But he got a score, you know, he won on his dressage score of 30. And I expect everyone to do that. You know, I think, well, why would you go out there and you can't, you know, stop and start and turn and go fast and slow? Why would you want to jump when you can't do that? But I can't convince that many of that either.
Yeah, it's the balance, isn't it, between having the training and, you know, the dressage, as you say, to be able to do flying changes and canter pirouettes, but also then having the courage to go on, because a lot of people have got the courage but not necessarily the control.
That's exactly right. And I think we've made a big mistake, I think, somewhere in the last 10 years or so. At the pony club level, I disagree entirely with the fact that they like the children to have fun. That's fine, but I'd like them to have balance and the horse to have fun. But they've reduced the height of everything so that the kids to have fun can go and do an eventing course of, you know, like 6 inches high. And I don't really see the value of that. They just bang around, and I don't know. I've been asked several times, because I used to be a dressage judge, a C-level dressage judge as well. So I'd get invited to judge the pony club children in the dressage phase of their one-day event. And I was always told, I'm a very honest judge, and they said to me, you know, you can't give any of these children below 5 because they would be unhappy. And I was a bit cheeky, I suppose, Glenys, and I said, so, you know, if they don't like a few cross-country jumps, they can miss a few. And they always said, no, don't be silly. They've got to jump everything. So they expected them to jump every show jump and every cross-country fence, but I had to be lenient on their walk, trot, canter. And I sort of think that they had the whole thing back to front.
Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks. So what do you think's the answer then with the cross-country? I mean, to do something like jumping equitation over cross-country fences, or, you know, to show that you've got a little bit of training and you're not just fanging around? What's the answer?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good solution, really. Like, whenever I teach show jumping in my group lessons, I've learnt too over the years. My people skills have gotten a little bit better, thank God. But I've learnt that people don't like to be told anything. You know, like, don't tell me I'm doing something wrong. So I'd set up exercises that I got out of that show jumping book of Anthony Pullman's, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And they started low, but we could go as high as they liked. But they had to be able to ride a straight line. They had to be able to turn. They had to be able to balance and, you know, get a really good rhythm. And I made the exercises exceedingly difficult. They didn't look difficult, but they were. They required you to really ride. And I found that was good, because then the riders themselves realised that they weren't turning properly and that their line wasn't straight. And so it sort of helped them, I think, understand that there was a lot more to it than just being able to kick and point, if you like.
Yes, yes. I think that sounds good. It sounds like you almost were doing jumping equitation with them within their lessons. We've just got to now introduce that as a cross-country, as a competition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, now just thinking generally about if someone, because you teach people with stock horses, if someone comes to you with stock horse and wants to do dressage, what sort of things would you start them on? What sort of exercises?
Well, I think that I start them on the ground. I start everyone on the ground, and I ask them what they're able to do, and they all tell me they can do everything. And I start them with the walk and the halt, and I get them to move the shoulders. I get them to move the shoulders independently. So I set up a simple exercise for everyone. And I just put 4 witches' hats out, and they do a straight line to one witch's hat where they halt, and they do a turn on the forehand. And they do that 4 corners of the witch's hat. And then we come up and we do a halt and move the shoulders around, like a quarter of a pirouette, really.
Yep.
And I do sideways as well. So then they come down the centre and they walk forward sideways. So I teach them right from the very beginning, and it doesn't matter how old they are, Glenys. The younger they are, those young kids of 6 and 7 just blow my mind how quickly they catch on to doing all of these little sets. So I get them to move the front end independently, the back end independently, the whole horse sideways, and then I teach them how to go backward. And I ask them how they do it, and they're all sure they do it well, but I haven't found anyone really over the time that can actually take their horse backwards and then straight forwards without pulling on the reins or putting pressure on their mouth. So I've taught them how to do that without pressuring the reins. Like, you can do it with no reins, you do it with your feet and your legs, and I can teach. I don't know what it is, but the horses love the way I do it because it's just horse-like. I think it just meshes with the horse, and everybody gets to do it. Even the young kids can do it, and they don't use any rein pressure. So I do everything that's in a higher level dressage test, and as I say to them, if no matter what discipline they're doing, no matter what they're doing, if they can move their horse forwards, backwards, sideways, then and go fast and slow, they've got everything they need to do whatever discipline. So I start right with that. I found a lot of, probably when I did dressage, they didn't teach you how to do a shoulder in until you were sort of like about to approach elementary, by which time it's really too late. I don't know. There's a lot of problems with people doing it later on. They have more issue than if you teach it early on.
I was going to ask you about the exercises that you do, because you said forwards, backwards, sideways, but sideways using the shoulder and the hindquarters independently. Do you find then, if you use those sorts of exercises, you don't have to teach someone to ride forward and into a round outline because they're already doing it?
Exactly.
That you don't say, like some people think that dressage is just pulling the horse's head in and that's what they focus on.
Exactly.
Whereas if they're doing the horse has got to listen to the aids, move the shoulders, move the quarters a little bit forward, a little bit slower, a bit faster. The horses just come into that outline. Yeah.
You're exactly right that the focus isn't on the head then. You're right.
It's on
that's
listening
what
to
most
the aids.
people do. They think they've got... I've asked that question, actually. I've said, who do you think is responsible for the horse's outline of the neck and the head? And 90% of the riders say, well, it's mine. I position his head and I hold him there. And that's how they ride. And that's not right. So it's trying to show them a better way that they are responsible for keying the head. I call it giving an aid. I suppose it's a rein aid, Glenys. I think that's missing in a lot of the training, that a lot of coaches do leg aids and seat aids, but no one seems to teach a rein aid. That's just automatic. You just pick up the reins and you put them on the bit. But it's not that easy, is it?
No, that's right. That's right.
And that's good teaching them on the ground too, that if I pick up my rein, that was reading in a book where it said that you should... the weight of the rein, if you pick up the weight of the rein with your 2 fingers like a cup of tea, the horse should yield his pole to that pressure. And when you do that, they do it. Like, it's amazing. And most horses are so eager to please you. And they learn. It's like people might say, oh, you're doing neck reining or trick reins or whatever, but it isn't. It's just a cue for the horse. I pick up rein, you drop your pole and carry your own neck, and then I teach them how to bend left and right, again, with just a two-finger pressure. And over the years I've thought, well, they bite flies pretty quickly. And I now expect them to bend their neck that fast. Like, why not? They can bend to a fly. And I think I've felt sorry for my horses over the years, that poor old thing, you couldn't possibly do this or that. But I'm getting to the stage where I found that the less I do, the better it gets.
Yep. And what do you think your biggest challenge has been in the whole time that you've been riding? Because you've had, I suppose your biggest challenge was your father in the beginning, because he wouldn't buy your horse, But, in your last, you're competing in your dressage and everything. Have you found a challenge, something that's really held you back, that you've thought, well, everyone else isn't like this, I just want to get rid of this challenge, or something you've learned from the challenge?
Well, I suppose being positive, there were no insurmountable problems. We would just do it. But it doesn't help to be living in West Australia. It doesn't help to be living deep in the country in Western Australia either.
I was going to say, 4 days to a competition. 4 days, that's a long way.
That's it. And, talking about the negative, discouraging bit was that quite a few of the people living in country WA were told, well, if you want to, you really want to compete, then you move east or you move up to Perth. Don't complain about coming up every Friday night to a competition at the equestrian centre. It's a 2-hour drive, that's all. Like, we're not that far away. It's a 2-hour up and a 2-hour back. And my husband, he was so supportive, Glenys. I couldn't have done any of it without his support. And we used to drive up every Friday night, and we'd get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. And if I wanted to stay on the team, that was what was required. But we did it anyway, because that's just part and parcel of it. And I didn't ever want to move. And you have to go east if you want to compete. And so we went east several times. I went over there to ride and sometimes to train. But I think too that I learnt something, that you have to believe in yourself, and you just want to, you're training most of the time by yourself. Like, I didn't have somebody there every day looking me over and helping me. So I think some riders have too little coaching. I think some riders get so dependent on their coach that they can't ride without them. I don't know. I think that if you want something badly enough, you're just prepared to do it. We never had a lot of money either, but we saved up to do whatever we needed to do. And I mean, gosh, I started by making my own jodhpurs, and I looked like it too, I might add, making my own gear. And, I was probably laughed at. I mean, the first lady that I asked to give me a lesson, the very first one, the very first show I ever went to, there was a lady, and she just looked magnificent, and she was hacking, and she just looked fantastic, like raw show quality. And I'm living in the country, and I look like, I don't know what I look like, but definitely not professional. And I rode up to her after she'd won an event, and I was so excited. I mean, I'm all of 22 here, like a little child, really, though. And I said, I would love it if you could give me some lessons. And she looked at me, and she was so rude. She said, I wouldn't be bothered giving you any lessons. You'll never make a rider. And I thought, whoa, you rude lady. And I thought, I'll show you. And that same day, she went in an event, poor woman, with another girl in a pair of hacks, and the horse kicked her and broke a leg. And she actually never rode after that.
Oh, wow.
But,
wow.
That didn't put me off. That just made me more determined.
Do it more.
Yeah. So I don't know. There was nothing that stopped me. I did whatever I had to do.
Okay. Now, you've written a book called Simply Dressage.
Yes.
Tell me why you wrote the book.
The main reason I wrote the book was I was trying to achieve my NCAS level 3, and I had to do a special, I don't know what they call it, but I had to do something that was pretty unique and special, and it had to be 1,000 words or whatever. So I thought, what was the thing that I needed the most as a rider? And it was asking questions of my trainers, coaches, and they didn't give me any answers. They wouldn't answer me. It was like I was an annoying
this is when you were first starting, was
Yeah,
it?
well, no, it wasn't even then. I was on the state squad then. They just thought, maybe they thought I knew. And they just tell me to be quiet and do it. But it wasn't enough. I needed something that was a little bit more in depth for me. And so I wrote this book to put it in very simple terms. I thought there's got to be a lot of not naturally gifted riders. I'm not a naturally gifted rider, so I needed a bit of extra help. So I wrote this book from many other books. It's nothing of my own input particularly at all, except for the drawings that I loved. But I wrote it so that I could just put it in very simple terminology for people to help them with a little Bible they could just flip open if they wanted to know how their seat should be and shoulder in or half past their weight. And for a lot of people, that's probably way too above their level, but it's something that they can come back to. And then they open the book and there it is. And I've had a lot of feedback from the guys that have bought the book over the years, and they've all said it's really been simple and it has helped them in a very simple way. So I think it's achieved its purpose, really.
I was going to say, within the book, you've got common corrections or common problems and how to correct it. And I try and give the listeners something that they can take away. It might be a common problem that they have, or if they're a coach, it might be a common problem that a student's got. So can you pull one or two of those out and talk about what you see as common problems and then how to fix them?
Well, I suppose I've got one of the common faults and corrections I had was with neck bending only. I think there's a lot of confusion about how much you should flex a horse when you're particularly, say, riding a circle. Most of us have too much neck bend in. So I try to teach people how to have like a straight neck riding a circle. And it's a very peculiar thing to say. But if you draw a circle on the ground yourself or on a board, and you draw in the horse, like in my book I have like aerial visions of a horse. Have you seen my book?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, right.
I haven't actually, but I can imagine the aerial visions.
It's just like a stick line with ears on the top and a little bulge for the neck and the shoulders and the belly. So when you draw a straight horse and you draw it like that with its ears on top of its straight neck, if you put a circle in and then you draw the stick line of the horse with the ears and the neck, you'll find that really the neck is very straight. The curve comes in a little bit curvy in the tummy, but we all have too much pulling neck in and abandoning the shoulder on the outside. So if I could encourage people to think that they've got two reins that are equal, and when they turn, when they're riding the circle, I encourage people to ride it like a bicycle, really, because I find most people don't. They either bend too much and the shoulder falls out, or they don't allow their outside shoulder to go forward enough to allow the horse to actually follow the circle in the way it's supposed to, so all its feet are on the right track. Most people hold the outside rein too strongly and they prevent the horse from actually following the circle. So they sort of pull the inside rein to pull the horse's neck in, and the hindquarters inadvertently then flip out. So if you look at a person riding a circle, I focus on the inside hind leg, and as soon as I see that crossing under the horse's body, then I just glance up to the rider, and yes, sure enough, her outside shoulder is not forward following the circle, like she's not looking where she's going, her shoulders aren't really following. And it's a really easy thing to ask them just to put that outside rein a bit more forward. That's probably the biggest fault, really.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. And, you think of circles, and they're just so important. Everyone's always trying to ride the perfect circle. And if that can improve the circle, that's a really good tip for people listening. To just go and next time they're riding, just put yourself on a circle and think about what you've just said.
Well, when I tell them to ride like a bicycle, kids are really good. They just go boom and they just ride like a bicycle. And they look ahead and the horse just goes flowing on the line.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to get an adult to allow that rein forward. They say, oh, no, no, no. And they do a better circle if they actually threw the outside rein away altogether. If they threw both reins away altogether, the horse would do it better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yep. Yep.
Like, I do get riders to ride with, like, a piece of string,
Yes.
a piece of rope around the neck, and they carry that rope in their hands like they're reins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very telling that if you pull back on the rope, you would be pulling back on your reins.
Yep.
And if you panic and use the rope too much to try to turn, it works against you. So you end up with the guys just sitting and just carrying their hands forward, like really doing nothing and looking on the circle. And if you look where you're going, your weight is in the correct spot without trying to do anything really.
Yep.
And the horse follows the circle. And if you look down at their neck and you've got no reins that you're pulling,
Yes.
their neck is straight,
Already.
really.
Yeah.
And it definitely they don't have any tilting face.
Yes.
And they don't have any neck bend in.
Yeah.
They just follow the circle.
Yep. Yep.
But it's hard to do. You've got to have a little bit of courage
Yes.
and don't get
yeah.
too frustrated.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, certainly I think that's something for people to go away and think about and do those exercises. Now, what about books? Because you said before that, you've learnt a lot from books. You talked about Anthony Paulman's book, Training Show Jumping.
Yes.
And you've talked about your own book. Are there any other books that you'd like to recommend?
That's probably my Bible, I'd have to say, Glenys.
Yep.
And I don't know whether it's that easy to find now, but it was called The Basics.
Okay.
Just The Basics. And it was by a guy called K.A. von Ziegner, Ziegner.
Okay.
And he's an older fella.
Yep.
And it's a guideline for successful training. And he has the full training tree in there.
Okay.
And it all starts with relaxation, and I've just loved it. The little book is just about worn out. I've highlighted everything, and it's got stickers all over it.
Yeah.
And I lend it to a lot of people, and it's just it's just a fabulous little book. If people can find it online, I know that a couple of the girls have said that they can't find it now. It's out of publication or it's very expensive to get, but if they can, I think that's a great book for anyone. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It's just training your horse, isn't it? Like, it's just educating your beast.
Yep, for sure.
So that's my favourite book.
Good. And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. And what are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to now? What does your future hold?
Well, I've had so many back operations, and I'm very, very positive that I would always get back on the horse and compete, which I did for a while, but now I've reached the stage where I think I just have to be more realistic.
Yep.
So my future now, I want to teach a lot more. I want to show people what they can do with their horses, and I'm training my students now to ride my horses in competition, and I just love it. When I teach someone, Glenys, and I have it happen quite a bit, and they cry at the end of the lesson. I go, oh dear, no. And they say, no, I'm crying with happiness because I've been trying to get this, and you explained it so easily, and now I've got it, and it's fabulous. So the more I can help people, help their horses, and have a partnership with their horses, like I've had amazing bonds with my horses. I really have. I've been blessed to have them.
Yep.
And if I could do that with other people, so I'd just like to teach an awful lot more. I'd teach every day if I could.
Yeah. And do you think that you explain things more simply because you learnt to ride as an adult?
No, I think I only explain it simply because I learned to ride as an Indian, and I have no idea why people want to pull these reins so much, and I don't understand. I think that, I don't know. I just believed I could. I just believed in my head that I could. So I think that believing you can do it is, I don't know. I don't know what was different about me, but I think I believed too much about the Indians. They rode out there and they carried their bow and they had their arrows. So reins were not there. And I've been to Europe a lot. Like, we led tours to the World Equestrian Games several times, and I've been through several museums and I've seen an awful lot of stuffed horses, Glenys. Stuffed horses. I didn't see a single stuffed wife, but they had stuffed horses, and their horses had to be like 100%. They went to war on these horses and they trusted them, and they all carried spears and shields. So way back then, these guys trained their horses better than we do today. They used their seat and their leg aids, and their horses were willing and they were forward. We're trapping too many of our horses with this. The hands are the big problem with the reins now. They're, like you said at the beginning when we were talking, that people think it's the head that they've got to worry about. It's not the head. It's their balance and their communication and their, I don't know, their love for their horse.
Yep.
I'm a bit different.
No, I think it's been good. It's been quite refreshing.
That's good.
Now, can you just sum up your philosophy into a lesson then, just so that our listeners have got something to think about and, just go over during the day?
Okay, if I had to say something, I'd say that when they do things with their horses, I've always thought in a very simple way that I like to ask my horse to do something, like I ask him to bend his neck to the left, and then if he doesn't quite get it, then I show him how to do that. But I'm not rough and I'm not hard with it, but I'm very effective with it, because we have to ask and we have to be effective very quickly, otherwise we're not very good teachers or leaders. But I found a lot of people probably tell their horse to do it. Like, it's just a different attitude of body. They tell them, bend, and they're quite assertive, and they're, you will bend, and then if they don't, they'll jolly well make them. So I'd like people to ask their horse gently and then show them how to do it, but be effective, instead of making and telling them. And just less is best. If they do less, it's better.
Good. All right, now, Anne, how can people contact you?
Well, probably best by, we don't have mobile range here where we are on the farm, so probably our home landline is a good way, or just email. Probably the most. Email is best probably.
And those details will be available on your podcast page, which will be horsechats.com/Anne Battley. And also, Anne, I'm going to put some details there about how they can get your book as well.
Okay. If they go, I've got another website, and it's attached to our farm website, and there's an equestrian page on it. So the website is just www.gelfro which is GELFRO farm, all one word, .com. Now, if they go into that, there's an equestrian page, and down the bottom of that they'll find the book, and they can and down the bottom there's a button they can click and just order the book and send me an email with their address, and I can post it out.
Go from there. Perfect. All right then, Anne, thank you very much, and hope to catch up with you again sometime soon.
Well, thank you very much, Glenys, and have a great day. Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com, and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.